Hello and welcome to the Intentional Soul, the home for the highly functioning spiritual types out in the world. It is here that we look at the world and ourselves through the lens of higher consciousness, connecting deeply to who and what we really are. Now, my name is Tom Ross, spiritual teacher, healer, spiritual nonconformist, and I am your host for these conversations. On the Intentional Soul, we hear not only from me, but from people who are living intentionally, openly, and authentically in their world. We'll hear their stories of personal transformation while sharing best practices and tactics to help you get the most out of this game called life. Now, nothing is off limits as we seek to expand ourselves and our awareness and live, ultimately, our most authentic lives. Let's dive in. All right, I am so excited today. With me is an old friend, Brandon T. Adams, a two-time Emmy award-winning producer, TV host, media expert, investor, advisor. Brandon owns an advisory and marketing agency with his business partner, Kevin Harrington, who is an original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank. So he's the founder of Accelerate Media Group, which produces commercials, social media content, and TV shows. There's not a lot of people who have this kind of breadth of experience. Brandon, I hope you give me a second while I finish out this bio. You do tech, telehealth, marketing, blockchain, entertainment, film, franchising, consumer products. That's a lot, but basically, man, you're just an incredible dude. You're an incredible man with an incredible heart and a passion for helping people and businesses really reinvent themselves and be heard by who matters. And so this has been a long time coming. Welcome to the Intentional Soul.
Well, I've been waiting for this moment for a while. I'm so excited to be here and to go on the journey and just have some fun and share some wisdom, because it's crazy. When we first met and to now, so much has happened. And so honored to be here, Tom.
It's insane. So you and I met, you were the host and the executive producer of the Emmy award-winning show Success in Your City. And that's essentially where we met. We had in Phoenix, we set up an incredible last minute kind of like charity event to kind of give to the community. And you, with that show, were really about redefining what success was. And we had an incredible crew. We had me, we had Mandy Monahan, we had Scott, we had Rick. There's a whole bunch of us that were
good
really
people.
Awesome. Yeah. And I don't know if I ever, that was my first experience with you and Sam. And I don't know if I've ever met someone is willing to swing big and take huge risks, exhibit unshakable confidence, in the end result as you. And I'm just thrilled to have you. And I'm so excited for the people on the Intentional Soul to hear your story and your perspective, and especially in the realm of risk taking. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, so I'll give quick on the background. I'm born and raised in Northeast Iowa, small town, Garnervillo. I grew up as an entrepreneur. My dad was in the ice business, so we sold packaged ice for a living. I say ever since I was a kid, I remember at 5 years old, dragging the bags of ice in the back of the truck. I worked with my father. And so he really ingrained in me business, entrepreneurship, buying and selling, customer relations, all that. So as a kid, I got to see business, not only do it, but experience it from my father. And I did that for a good part of my life. So from literally a kid to high school, and then once I went to college, really the kind of mindset change for me, which I know you've read the book as well, is I got led to a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
It's a guy he published in 1947, but he interviewed people like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, all these people. And he found out the philosophy and principles of success and what it takes to be a success. And that doesn't mean necessarily money. It could literally mean anything, whatever your own version is. I read it and it completely changed how I thought. It made me realize I could be whoever I wanted in the world. I just had to have a burning desire, persistence, be around the right people, and never give up. And so that book changed how I thought. And then I ended up inventing a product called Arctic Stick to cool and flavor drinks, took it to market, never really made any money. But I always share that story because that endeavor is what led me to the thing called crowdfunding. I was raising money for different endeavors, but crowdfunding is what led me to video production, because crowdfunding, the key component to raising money was the story we told and the video that we created. So we created a video which said, hey, here's who we are. Here's what we're doing. Here's how you can get involved, which was, well, get behind us and give us money. And so once I saw that side of it, I really became more obsessed with the TV production, video production, storytelling side. And that's when I went all in. We created Accelerate Media Group. Since then, we've done multiple shows. I'm EPing multiple shows in front of the camera, behind the scenes. And then I got more into helping businesses grow through video production. And then the 2018, when we met, we did the show Success in Your City, which you're associate producer of, mentor, and really helped us. Like, I got to say, the team in Scottsdale, you guys were the catapult that allowed us to make this show really get the fire to start. And it was one of the most challenging things we did. I mean, I was all in, and so much so, like, I almost lost my relationship. I lost I did lose everything for a while, got everything taken away from me, stripped, but I ended up coming up back on top. And that journey taught me just different versions of success and made me look differently at life, at how I achieved things and what even mattered. And show went out, released on Amazon Prime 2019. We ended up writing a book on it as well called The Road to Success. And I don't even know if you know this, Tom, but come this summer, we're actually re-releasing this show through Bespoke TV, Direct TV, and other cable outlets around the country. So it's awesome. It's cool to see it come out. Yeah.
That's super, super cool. So you had, working with your dad, was there a component of entrepreneurial spirit that was about, or was it simply just like learning how to work and how to grind and how to work hard at that phase of your life?
All of it. My dad was always a hard worker. He's a hard worker. A couple of things he said to me early on. He said, Brandon, use your head, not your back. Because in the ice business, you're using your back a lot. He had 2 herniated discs. He's had hip surgery, is all of it. But I learned that. But some things I took away from my father, because he loved making money, doing deals. I remember during the holidays in the summertime for the ice business, it's when we grinded, because that's when we made our money. And so I love that passion, that grind, like that. You put in the work and you get the reward, right? Mm-hmm. And we got cash and work. It was a fun business. But really, what I kind of took away from my father, a couple of things: relationships. He knew all of his customers, which I did too, by name basis. Communicated with them, talked with them, and he also would do something every year. We'd have like people come out to our cabin. He would create community. So like bring people together, provide value to them. We'd play cards, he'd cook food. And that actually kind of further later on in my life really stood with me and stayed with me for the rest of my life, at least I'm 33 now, is I put on events around the country. So I bring people together, and really I'm just doing it in a different format. I'm bringing in speakers, I'm bringing in talent. And so those things that my dad did with us early on really kind of stayed with me. And now I do it in everything I do in business today.
Got it. Makes sense. And so you talked about Napoleon Hill and the Think and Grow Rich when you were in college. Did Arctic Stick, was that while you were in college? Or was that like inspired by, did you read this book all of a sudden say, oh my God, I want to go create something, and then you created that? Or was it all just kind of things were happening at the same time?
So I read the book, and then that next summer, like I read the book and I knew, okay, what is going to be my thing? And at first I'm like, I'm going to be the best in the ice business.
Yeah.
Because that's what I knew. And then one day while driving down the road, I had a bottle of beverage that got warm quick. I thought I could put ice cubes in it, but that's time consuming. I'm like, how could I create something that could easily fit in, but also could be something I can use in other ways? And that's where I came up with Endeavor. And it was just an idea then. So that really, the book sparked me to think bigger. And then through me challenging myself to think of how could I make more money in the ice business, I invented this product and eventually took it to market. And that inspired so many other things.
Yeah. When you talk about success in your city, and I could see, when I teed us up, it was this idea of you had such focus and such resolve. Anybody who was around in that process could see like it was an intense period of time for you. Now, you had never shared that, hey, I'd had everything kind of taken away from me and then kind of came back on the top a little bit. But when you talk about redefining yourself or what was important in that particular period, would you mind kind of sharing just that transformative process? What insights or understandings were you having? Because that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. So every month things were changing. So first month we're in Scottsdale, Arizona with you. We filmed. Second month, third month, we're in Arizona with the Kane team. That was really kind of challenging, and where I started having more faith in God and life and in my relationship because like I hit a rock bottom moment, kind of like a lot of things hit me at once from a business relationship and financially. But then I kind of came back up from that. So like this roller coaster life. And then after that, I'm like, okay, we're good to go again. Went to Boston, did our next city. And that's where really I kind of changed everything, how I thought about success. And it's because we were with David France. And David, at that time, I mean, prior to that, he was homeless at one time. So homeless, playing a violin, busking at the subways to get money. And by the way, he had money. He could go live somewhere, but he wanted to save the money up towards his dream, which was to create an orchestra for children, for teenagers, young adults. And so what he did is he saved some money up from busking. He got instruments donated. He got a location donated. And then he started like helping these people play violin and teaching them. And he literally like created something from nothing. He crowdfunded it, crowdsourced it, but he was so committed. And one thing he said is you can do a lot with a little. And he really ingrained in my wife and I that you don't need all these material things. They don't really make you happy. And so after we did that, filming the episode, we spent a month in Boston. I literally went home. I sold my house, got rid of my house. We sold or gave away most of the things that we had. And then that actually sparked the conversation to sell two different businesses. One was the ice business and one was an event business. And I went all in on success in your city. So when we left in June towards our next city in Denver, we literally had what we had in our vehicle and there was a storage unit, but like we literally got rid of everything and went all in. And so that's when like people say they're committed. I mean, I was committed. And so that was transformational for me. And then we did a couple more cities and it kind of changed. We got married, but that was just the beginning, Tom. Like that changed how I looked at what matters in life, what is success, how I view how different people achieve success. But after marriage, I think the roller coaster started even more because everything was stripped from me then because we got married and then I went through a whole crisis and everything was taken from me. We got our car repossessed. They took our land. They took, I had debt collectors. I mean, I was $500,000 deep in the hole. I literally lost everything, Tom. It was a very humbling experience. And it was very, I don't know, like I'm at the bottom. What am I going to do now? And I did start questioning, was it worth everything I did to create the show? And it was worth it. I almost lost my wife in the process, but whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And now it's really like I'm stronger than I've ever been. My wife and I, we have a great relationship. And anyways, just a crazy journey. And I guess one sum up to this, Tom, is I found when you go so far outside your comfort zone and you commit to something, you're willing to risk it all. You will go through hell. You will go through a battle. But if you do stick it out, you will have experiences and success that most people will never achieve because they aren't willing to put it all on the line. I put it all on the line, and now I get to see the upside of that. And I'm grateful I did.
What lessons did you, because I mean, anyone who stays the course is generally speaking committed to this thing happened to me. What did I learn from it? How do I iterate and move on? And I never asked you that question directly. However, my hallucination is that's how you approach things. So as you're going through this process, as you hit bottom, what lessons are you kind of like internalizing and how have you taken them forward into, your endeavors and what you're doing now?
Yeah. So great question. So lessons, it goes back to being resourceful. I looked at a couple things when I was completely broke and having to start over again. I looked at my network. I looked at what I knew, my knowledge. I looked at my brand. I looked at everything I had as a foundation. And then I forced myself to think, how could I take the things that I have at my hand length, like that I have access to, and how could I turn that into a situation where I make money and get myself out of this situation? So that really forced me to think, and now any business I take on, any entrepreneur I work with, any company, I take that kind of mindset of how can we use what we have and how can we turn that into something very powerful? Most people think they just got to go raise money to grow a company. Sometimes it's just really creating the right talent, the right kind of people in one place, and then use that to scale the company. So that's one thing from it. Another thing, it really helps me I work with a lot of different people, and sometimes the CEOs and founders we work with, they're going through hell. Like they're going through a shit show. And I can relate because I've been through it, and because of my experience, I can kind of give them some guidance advice. I'm not like some guy like trying to give advice to someone never experienced. And then the third thing is the past is a great story and message that I share now on podcast shows, speaking on stages, and in videos. And I really think it helps a lot of people. So I take that now and share it with the world. Your message, your message.
How long did it take you? Were you immediately willing to share, or were you hiding for a little while?
So that was a tough thing. So while it was happening, I was not sharing. I shared with very little people. It was very emotionally draining, and I see where people completely shut down or go in depression this wrong, like I see where people commit suicide and stuff like this. Like it's not easy. And so for me, I kept going. And I had to show up. And I remember, Tom, I would wake up every morning. And one of the ways I dealt with my demons in my head was I went to the gym and worked out because it kind of got my mind going and got my mind off things. And then it kind of got me fuel and energy for the day. And then I focused on, because I realized every day I woke up, I need to make money today, or I'm either going to get evicted or I'm not going to have money to like provide for myself or my wife. And I also know that I have a lot of debt collectors. I had to put my phone on do not disturb because I had 20 calls a day from people that I owed money from. I was at a point I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And so I was so far deep. And so through that process, I just acted as if I didn't say like, oh, I never claimed like, hey, everything's amazing. I'm making all this money of this, even though I was still bringing money, but it all went, I never went bankrupt, just so you know. I chose,
which, by the way, it would have been your legal right to do so. However, you chose.
Yeah, part of me, I have a friend he's very successful now, and we joke, we're like, we should have went bankrupt because Donald Trump's done it, many other people. I chose not to because just my whole identity was like, I'm paying back what I had, and so because of that, every single month, all the money was going to pay debt, and then trying to figure out. And so I'm doing videos still. I'm speaking on stages, which was tough too, because like, yes, I've achieved success and all these things, but in the moment I felt
feeling like a fraud,
feeling like a fraud. But this is what I told myself, Tom. I would go in front of the mirror and I would scream at myself and say, listen here, motherfucker, you're going to figure this out. You are a success. This is only temporary. You're going to get through this. Yeah. And I would say that, and I would prime myself up, but I'd also tell myself before I go on stage, I would pray and I would say, it doesn't matter where I'm at right now, but I have a gift to communicate a story and a message. And there's somebody in the audience. And if I can use this gift to communicate effectively, I can inspire them. And I can take away the fact that how I feel right now, it's not about me. It's about what I can do on this stage. That was my way to get through it. And not feel like a piece of crap. And it was my way to communicate. And eventually I got through it all, but it wasn't easy. I mean, come on, when you're speaking on stages and everybody's like praising you, like you got it all figured out and you don't know what the hell you're going to do. Yeah. It's a mind fuck.
No, 100%. It's a brave place to be. And, hey, the decision to organize yourself in a way that everybody gets paid back, like that's also, when you look at the people that you consult for and the executives that you talk with or the boards that you talk with, like your resourcefulness went to an entirely new level and how to be able to deal with certain things. And so I'm sure it's continued to pay dividends.
100%.
That's extraordinary. How did you reconcile? What was Sam like? And so Sam's your wife. You've mentioned her as your wife. I've mentioned her as Sam. Like, so was Sam was she riding shotgun with you on this? Or were you kind of like, were you trying to keep her shielded from how you felt inside? Like, how did you personally? So let's talk about coping with adversity, like in the moment, in an intense situation. What worked for you? How did you do it?
Well, for her, it affected her in so many ways, which then that adds to my whole demeanor because I'm putting
the provider button.
Yeah, provider. I'm putting the person I love into depression. I'm a piece of shit, and it is all my fault. Like it really is. It was my choices, and she lost faith in me, and I can see why. And And it hurt me. It was not fun because I told her I gave this vision and dream and everything, and she believed in it. And I took her along this and I put her into that hole at that time. And it feels really good now because of where we're at. Because it's like we went through that. And now look, we did it. But it was not easy. She was in shotgun and she really didn't have a choice at that point. And it was like suffocating for her, for both of us. But we did get through it together. We found our wins. And for me, how did I deal with it? I told somebody this the other day on a podcast show. When you're going through any kind of hell, you can either think positive or negative. And I don't care what your situation is. If you think negative, it is not going to help you get out of your situation. It will make your whole body feel negative. It'll make you feel bad. The only way to get through something is to think positive. And again, I know given any situation, it's not easy when you have no money or somebody died or something. But if you can force yourself to be in a positive state, then you can get positive results. And so for me, what I did was I still surrounded myself with the positive people. I read books. I literally listened to books. I listened to positive music. I exercised. I wrote down my goals. I thought about where I was going. I constantly forced myself to be in a positive state. And that was the only way I was going to get out of it.
If you look at your life and how things are configured right now, is what you're doing right now exactly what you would, forget the path to get there, is what you're doing right now exactly what you had imagined, or is it totally different than what you had imagined?
It's kind of both, a lot of things I do, it's what I imagined. It just sometimes is a little in different ways. Like some of the things I'm a part of now, and I'm still growing. I struggle with feeling like I never kind of am enough at what I'm doing or feel the full potential. And I state publicly that is a problem I deal with, like not feeling like I've ever really achieved the thing. Even though I know I have, I pat myself on the back and I did achieve, but I still have this drive to keep growing, keep doing things. But every once in a while, I'll just stop and be like, holy shit, like the things I'm doing right now, there's not many people in the world that have the experience or opportunity that I have. So I don't take it for granted. And so there are some things like, yes, I thought I'd be doing, whether producing TV shows, being a part of different projects, or speaking at events, hosting events. But then there's times where I'm in situations or rooms, I'm like, wow, this company could be $1 billion company and I'm a partner in it. And it's like, this is cool. Like not only take away the money side. Yeah, I make a lot of money, but it's like, I'm a part of history right now. And I have a couple of projects that I feel like I'm a part of history. And it's pretty cool.
That's super, super inspiring. What kind of flexibility have you had to maintain? So now go back into the journey. And if you look at it from like flexibility, will you just talk about adaptability and flexibility as it relates to navigating when everything's falling apart?
Yeah. Well, you got to be adaptable and you always got to be flexible. And even when think about when it's falling apart, even when things are going good, like I don't like when things seem to be going like I'm too comfortable. Okay. For every level, there's another devil. And so
I like that. I'm going to borrow that.
So for every level, like as I grow, I'm constantly forcing myself to do things that even scare me when most people would be like, okay, this is good. I want to idle at this. I don't, because I know the second that I do that, laziness, complacence, like will kick in, and then I will no longer have my momentum. So I will put myself into positions, which sometimes it's not healthy. I'll put myself into positions that force me to grow into that next level. And then I hit that next level, and then it's kind of the next thing. So you have to adapt. You have to push yourself. You have to challenge yourself. And again, it goes back to being around people that will force you to think bigger. Samantha does it. My wife does it, forces me a lot, tells me, hey, you should be doing this. And because here's what happens. When you achieve a certain amount of success, everybody tells you how great you are and all these things. And they won't tell you exactly the things you need to hear. But when you have somebody else close to you, when they actually say, hey, you actually need to do this a little better. And sometimes you hear it, it's like, but yeah, I get it. I got to do that better. So have people tell you really what you need to do, force yourself out of your comfort zone and be flexible and be willing to adapt.
What's the most courageous thing that you've had to bring forth out of yourself in this last, call it 4 years since you and I worked together, or 5 years. Holy shit. Or it can be earlier. I suspect it was within this last 5 year period. Talk about like courage, where you really had to summon it out of yourself.
Yeah, it was, man, I'm trying to think any which one thing that I had to do. It was, I moved to Florida, which now I got a place in Florida and Nashville, but I moved because I knew I needed to be in proximity of the right people. That was like a leap, even though that time, like, okay, I'm taking on two places. But I knew the proximity, which as soon as I got there, I got one deal within a month that covered everything. So it was it was kind of realization, hey, things happen. I think a lot of things, and I don't know if I'm answering the question directly, but I've done a lot of things lately that I just say I'm going to do it, and I start putting the things in place, and I just have faith it's going to work out. And sometimes it just falls into place and it works out. Because some people are half in, but I go all in, commit, and I put myself in a position where I have to do it, and then it somehow just things kind of fall into place. I don't know what it is. I would say I'm trying to think of one thing, Tom, because I have so many that have happened over the years where I just had to go all in and go out of my comfort zone. I think here's one. I'll share this. This is probably not exactly what you're looking here. There was a moment, and you think about when you hit rock bottom, where you had an experience that you tell yourself, I will never let this happen to me ever again. Yeah. And it kind of puts a flame in you. It was December of 2019. It's where I kind of hit the final end of the road. Is I got a call from Sam, and our car got repossessed, and I was not with her. And she had to get an Uber and get an Uber for 20 minutes. It was cold in Minnesota, and I was at my parents' house. And in that moment, I realized I had no control over what was happening. I literally, again, put my life into a bad situation, and I didn't know what to do. And I'm stuck 4 hours away at my parents' house. I went down to the basement and I started screaming and bawling. And I said, I'm never going to feel like this ever again. And that really was kind of the fire that led to me getting my comeback. And then the rest just kind of COVID hit. COVID was a blessing in disguise for me. It catapulted my business. I grew my advisory consulting business. I started getting equity in multiple companies. And then I went from in the hole to building wealth.
So with what you know now, with everything that you've experienced, if you were going to go back and get in your time machine and go back in time, call it, 5 years or 7 years or whatever it is, what would you tell yourself or would you tell yourself anything to kind of like take the edge off, or, hey, watch out for this or watch out for that? Like what would you give yourself rails? Like, what would you do if you could literally put a time machine together?
I did the right things. I think the only thing I would just say is like to my time machine, going back in time where I was at, I would say, hey, Brandon, if you wake up every single day and treat this as if your life depended on it and give it everything you got, you're going to get out of this. And not only are you going to get out of this, you're going to achieve massive wealth, and you're going to be more successful than you ever thought you could be. But you have to wake up every day and treat it as if literally your life depended on it. And if you didn't give it all you got, it would be the death of you. And so sometimes I actually had to put myself in very uncomfortable mindset situations where it's like, if I don't do this, I will die, or my loved ones will die, or I would think of the worst things, try to motivate myself. It's like Michael Jordan.
Base survival, like activate base survival energy. Yeah.
Michael Jordan did this when he went to games. They say through his documentary that he would make up conversations that what some people would say to him that pissed him off. So when he went into that game, like it was a mindset of how he'd win the game.
That was one of the best parts of COVID was watching that documentary. People be like, I never said that. And you're like, well, it was real to me. So
yeah, exactly. And it's training your subconscious and your belief system. I mean, this is why I would say things in the mirror. I would write words down, because you're tricking your own mind to believe one thing, and then becomes your reality. And then everything, your awareness is around that thing that you believe in.
Do you still run yourself as hard as you ran yourself back in the success in your city days, or do you give yourself a little bit more grace to be in process?
It comes and goes and flows. It's not like doing that consistently every single day. It'll wear on a person. So like I'll have weeks where I'm so like focused and going nonstop that it's become so part of my being. And then there's times where I'm still doing things, but I'm more relaxed, so more chilling. Like this weekend, we're going to a campground and we're going to be in a camper for like 5 days.
Nice.
And so it's a good disconnect. I'm still working, by the way, but I'm just not as intensely focused and going. But sometimes you actually need that, because when you take a little step back, it gives you the ability to look at things from a different perspective, which allows you to then go back to the race again at a much higher velocity. And so it's not a constant grind every single day. It's I grind, I get what's done, and I constantly think about how can I improve the system and process.
I play this game with myself called If I Knew What I Knew Now, Did It Have to Be What It Had to Be Then? Knowing that how it was then was the only way I got to who I am now. For you though, if you put yourself in that same time machine, is there a way that it had to look or feel like what it was back there, like the pain that you went through, what you endured, what you overcame and persevered through? Did it have to be like that, or was there a way?
No, it had to be that way. It definitely had to be that way, because if it didn't happen that way, it wouldn't give me the strength to be who I am today. The comfortability, like everything happened for me. It really did. And now it actually gives me this perspective in life. Everything's happened for me, not against me. And I don't know in that moment exactly why it's happening, but I just say, hey, I know it's happening for a reason. And what can I learn from this? And what is the sign for me? And I think if anybody could take that one thing away, it would change their whole perspective on life. Things happen for you, not against you. And again, sometimes like in the most effed up ways, whether a death or something really traumatic happens to you, an injury or something, there's usually down the road, you'll see why it happened and how it made you into who you are. I'm going to give you an example. This is my wife and I were talking about different things in our past and journey, how it propelled us and everything. One thing for me is early on when I was a kid, I had a speech impediment. And so I had a lisp, so I couldn't communicate effectively. And so the experiences I had as a kid with a lisp and bullied and couldn't speak forced me, because I wanted to figure out how to master my speaking. If I didn't have that happen to me, I probably would have never became a master at communication and sales and like how I would communicate a message. So that happened for me, not against me. Now, in the moment when I was a kid, I hated it. I was crying. People bullied me. I felt like I didn't fit in. But now I get why it happened, and I'm grateful for it.
That's a perspective that we have a lot on the show. And thank you for dropping it in such a beautiful way. Everything from the gnarliest trauma you can imagine has the ability for it to be contextualized in a way that it happens for you. And ultimately, like that's, for me, for someone like myself, for a lot of the listeners, for maybe, I'm assuming for you, like that's the juice in life. That's how you get agency over whatever occurs, that's your agency, that's your learning, that you're moving forward and you're iterating. So if you're going to share something with someone who's longing to take a risk, be more of who they are, maybe they've got a burning desire, however, they don't feel that they're in a place to be able to take that risk. Like they're afraid, essentially. Like what would you tell a person who might be listening like that?
I would say this. Are you more afraid of taking the risk, or are you more afraid of waking up one day, being old, and always wondering, what if? And that right there is one thing that would drive me. And that right there is a reason why I didn't quit with the show. It's because I did not, when I first took the trip, I realized if I didn't take it now, I'd never take it to go travel the country and film a show. I realized if I didn't follow through and finish, that I always wondered, what if I did follow through and finish? So that was the driver for me to keep pushing forward, even when, and it was tough because there's times when you ask the moral of the vision and drive is me moving forward is actually hurting the people around me. And it's sacrificing so much. And you almost ask yourself, what price am I willing to pay? And there was times where I thought maybe it's not worth paying the price, but I did push through. And I'm grateful that I still have my wife with me today. I'm grateful that I'm still here. And I'm grateful my family still talks to me. So that's a good thing. And so I would say that to anybody. A lot of people, it's different when you have kids. I assume I have no kids. It's different when you have certain obligations, or it's harder to go take that risk. At least I would think. I don't know from firsthand experience. I don't have kids. But I would say, though, think about if you figured the way to take the risk and make it happen with the kids, how that would set an example and inspiration for your kids that would allow them to become even more successful. That's the way I would kind of flip it to those people that are in that situation.
That's perfect. I can speak from someone who does have kids and is in transition. It's just something else in the consideration set, and to your point, I get to be an example. Someone who risks in that way gets to be an example for the kids. And if it doesn't exactly work out, how is that happening for me? Right? I mean, At the end of the day, how is it happening for? What are we doing? My friend, Brandon T. Adams, thank you so very much for spending some time with us today and dropping some nuggets. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, I'm at Brandon T. Adams everywhere on social media. Send me a message or just go to brandonTadams.com and stay tuned for more to come with our show releasing this summer. Again, you can find that at brandonTadams.com. Or if you want to come attend our event, Rise and Record, go to riseandrecord.com.
Oh, by the way, my son, who was on that show for a hot minute, is taller than me now. Just wants to get to. He's just trying to get to 6'4" and 240 as fast as he can to catch passes. So I digress. So I thank you so much for being with us here, and look forward to continuing the conversation and watching your success, Brandon. All right, this has been another episode of the Intentional Soul Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to leave a 5-star review if you found this content of value. And as always, I'm your host, Tom Ross, Master Practitioner of the Advanced Rapid Enlightenment Process and Rapid Enlightenment Process developed by Matthew Ferry. You can reach me at tom@tomrosstalks.com, and the website to engage and be a part of any classes, trainings, or sessions I have going on is www.tomrosstalks.com. Until next time, peace.